everybody. It is your girl, Miss T Talk, and I am here with my girl, Kayla. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well today. I'm glad that we get to sit down finally. I met you virtually last year, and now you're on T Talk. Like,
I know.
you're here.
Circle.
Full circle. My media girl, my media maven. You started, 2019, so right before the pandemic.
Mhm.
So when you started, some newspaper stuff, some writing, how did you get into that back then?
It was actually brought to me, like the founder of the newspaper. This was when I was like my senior year of college, and he reached out to me about like writing, like business and fashion content. And so then that's kind of like how I got started. And then in about 7 months, I was promoted to arts and culture editor.
Oh wow, like that quick?
Yeah, because like the first piece I did, he gave me like a big cover story. It's where I did like a 4-page spread, and it kind of went viral around campus. And so like that from there, it kind of just like took off. And then I think it helped because I also had launched like my blog around that time. And so then yeah, they kind of just promoted me from there.
And you were just like, what did you like expect the promotion? You were like me, or like, oh yeah, I did that, like, because it went viral on campus. People were looking at your work, the time and effort, that you put in. So was it like a big surprise?
When I got promoted, I mean, I suppose so, yeah, like to some degree, not more necessarily because I felt like I didn't deserve it. Like I knew I was a bomb writer.
Yes, you are. Talk about it.
But I think it was just more so like shocked that they were willing to promote me. That's just because there was like already a full staff that had way more seniority than me. But I was one of the most consistent. So
And there it goes. Your work shows for itself. In talking about, when you did the newspaper being promoted, it also blossomed your blog that that you were talking about. And how did you get started with that? I know everybody has like this big dramatic, like, oh, I got started like here, but it takes, you was already, writing for another, like something else. So would you like, let me just do something for myself?
I mean, I don't know. I think like I'd always liked writing. And I definitely I had been passionate about, of course, like Black culture. Like at that time I was already a member of the NAACP, and so like I wanted to do something that was like catered to Black women. So it was called The Melanin Perspective. It's still out there. And it was like specifically like catered to self-development for Black girls. And so there were like 3 main pillars, like mental health, emotional intelligence, and physical well-being. And so that was kind of like what I wanted to do. I was pretty clear in it almost immediately, but ironically enough, it was triggered by a podcast. My Link Till's podcast, Might Taught You, like that is what inspired it. Wasn't related at all, but I guess, I don't know, I just like listened to that podcast for the first time and then went home and like brain dump all that and then kind of did what I had to do to launch it.
Yeah, brainstorm, and then you did it, and then you're still doing it. So we're talking about what, 4 years?
Yeah, like it went on. I launched it in 2019, like summer 2019, and then like in 2020, it kind of like I put a pause on it, like a few months after I launched my podcast. But yeah, like it's still out there. I think there's nearly 100 blog posts like for people to sift through. Like it catapulted into something that I'd like beyond what I could have thought.
Right. And I'm glad that you still have that up, because I think that when people can look at it, like you said, you have those 3 big pillars, especially for, for Black people, women, us. It is so important for us to even sit through and read it and watch that, and for you to give back to us. And crazy that started in 2018, because in 2020, we went through the craziest time in our life, the pandemic.
Yeah.
How did that affect you and your mental when it comes down to writing? Was you like in a different space to be like, all right, let me just full-fledged this and let me just write some stuff that really comes into mind? Because we're inside that we were.
Yeah. I mean, I think, for a lot of people, it makes you question everything about anything you ever thought you wanted. That year was also pivotal because that was the year I graduated from college. So literally, like right around the time that it was happening, I was wrapping up school. Like I finished the last month from home. So never got to have the graduation ceremony, never got to like do any of that. And then I was going through like a breakup around that time. It was some craziness, but yeah, I think it just made me like dig deeper into my creativity, like find alternative outlets, which kind of led to starting the podcast as well. And so, I mean, I think a lot of good came out of it.
Yeah, right? Because, sometimes when we lose and lose and lose or things are taken away, it's greater good. Like, you came up with that. Then, not even after the podcast, like, in how did you, like, you do so much. I'm like, oh my gosh, she does PR, she does writing, she does, how do I get into everything that my girl Kayla does? So it's just a lot of hats, I would say, that you do. So you've done PR work as well.
Yeah.
So how did that come about as well?
That was on a whim. Ironically, it's because of the podcast. I joined, I don't know, they got some stuff going on now, but it was Towards the Culture.
Oh, yes. Okay. I'm a part of that, right? Yeah, and then I told you we were, that's another story, girl.
Yeah. Wow. So I was
Black Excellence Society now.
Yeah, Black Excellence Society. Shout out to them. I was one of the early members. I joined 2021 and I ended up putting out, this was like before, like, they were still like kind of figuring out the flow of like this group chat that we were all in.
Yeah.
I was like, I see people posting about, like all of these different events they're having and different things like that. And I'm just like, why are there so many like creatives in this space? Like, why are we not collaborating? So I just put out a filler like, hey, like I have this form if you want to come on my podcast. And so like so many people filled it out. And that was how I met like two friends who became mentors to me. One of them, she was from Shondaland. We still keep in touch to this day. And then another, she was in fashion PR. Her name is Naisha Rose. Both of them LA based, but they're from the East Coast. And Naisha, like we recorded her interview, and then after she was like, you should get into PR because I have a marketing degree, and there's some similarities, but they're not necessarily the same thing. And so it was really because of that conversation. She was like, you should do this, 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 this. It was like almost actually about 2 years ago, almost, because it was May 2021. And then from there, I just found like, cause I had a full-time job, but I just found like, figured out a way to do like 2 internships just to put it on my resume. And then by Thanksgiving that year, I had a job as an account executive at a PR firm.
Okay.
And then, I was there for, that kind of helped me move to New York. I used that job because it was based in FIDA. So I used that job to move to New York the following April, which was
which the year ago. So that you just had your year anniversary of being in New York.
Yeah.
I think people that, that come to New York on like a whim, like you did, very brave.
Yeah.
Like New Yorkers, it's not even just like Long Island. They moved to like New York, the city.
Yeah,
I would say. And how was that, transition? I mean, you're from down south and it's a little bit slower down there. Things are, doesn't move as quick as it does up here, especially with opportunities like that. So how was the transition from South Carolina to New York, and how was it beneficial?
Yeah, it was definitely crazy. Because I'm from South Carolina, born and raised. I went to school in Spartanburg. So, and like my family, like all my immediate family there in South Carolina, no one's ever really moved out far. So like, it was a big deal for me to go, especially like, the traditional, like, I'm a single young woman. I'm not moving with anyone. Like I'm not, and like, so to go so far, I signed a lease without even having seen the apartment in person, didn't know my roommates. Like, I just decided, like, Tuesday, I'm going to get an apartment, and then Saturday, I had a signed lease. And, then I moved the next month, and it was definitely chaotic. I mean, I think, fortunately, like, it wasn't, like, so big of a culture shock just because I had been traveling, and been here, like, multiple times before, so I, like, kind of knew the scene. But, it took a while to kind of register that, like, oh, I live here. But I don't know. I think I just, like, I've always been pretty ambitious. So I think I was just kind of like, I got to get it. Because like you said, like opportunities is just on a different level here. And like for what I want to do, being in media and being in entertainment, like, I just knew like this is where I needed to be.
This is where it needs to be. And how that came, full circle. And now, you celebrated the year. Do you see yourself really being here for a long time?
I mean, definitely for the next few years, at least like my like company is based here. So yeah, like definitely for the next few years. I don't know if like settle down family here, but like definitely next few years.
It's expensive. Y'all know, y'all that watch in New York, it's definitely expensive here. You need to have like $1 million job. It's expensive. I'm gonna say this: being single and living in New York. I feel like splitting the bills 50-50 with people is a little bit easier, but being like a single person, just moving, to New York and really try to like settle down, but you're making it work. Yeah. And you're making a lot of things, for yourself, work for your business, for your podcast, that I was on.
Yeah. Like a year ago. Like,
girl, I was on your podcast and it was so welcoming, especially at a time in my life. I think that, but you made all of your guests. I watched your podcast. I know you have one of my girls. Shout out to Rhea on the podcast. Yes. A lot of people that work in those places, which like you have like those deep connections, and it just shows so much about like your work and who you are and who you stand for, which I think that's definitely amazing. Yes, I'm gonna give you your flowers on Tea Talk. That's what we do here.
Thank you.
That's what we do here. And just to see everything unfold, and we're here just a year later, and it's like when you have these ideas, you create. You just keep creating. Yeah. So tell me more. I know that you invited me because I want to be a part of. You have like this newsletter.
Yeah. Now.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So this was like one of like a sporadic like creative spurt thing.
Yes.
That I had. I wanted to do like give back, because people are always asking about like how advice and different things like that about like navigating, and like you try to give advice here and there, but you can't like serve everyone individually. And so I figured a good way to like give back was to start a newsletter. It's called Media Maze, and it's like targeted towards like creatives, just to like help them navigate the media and entertainment space, because it does feel like a maze.
Yeah, I'm supposed to be like
it is so confusing. You don't know how you're gonna get from point A to point B. Sometimes from point A to point B, and like it's just like people need to be surrounded by like-minded people who are actually like taking action and like have the insight to give that insight.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I started that about a month ago. The response has been great so far. So yeah, every Monday you get like talk about different topics that all of us can relate to, and just giving
advice. And I think that's very important, because I feel like in this industry, what we are, we're Black women in media, and a lot of gatekeeping that definitely goes in this industry, and for you to do that, even I'm gonna do a little plug-in. With me having a mentorship, giving back to I haven't talked about it on TikTok. It's my first time. Even having a mentorship, giving back to people in the media, I think is very important, and it just shows like. No, like I want to see you win too, sis.
Yeah,
and I think that's a mentality that like you should have in this industry. It's hard because you want to see who rides here first, who does this first, or who does it the best.
Right.
But we all gotta win too. That's why I'm like, nope. My girl Kayla, she is coming on set. Coming on set. Talk about everything. So we're in 2023. I can't believe that I'm saying. It just sounds so. I met you last year. What are your plans for the rest of the year? Because I see that you do like you said, like the media mates was very like spontaneous. Do you see any more like spontaneous other works coming up that you would like to share, or anything bigger?
Yeah, I mean, I'm usually a planner, so like the spontaneity, we'll see how that goes with other spontaneous projects. But definitely other projects coming. Like the podcast, have that about to start production for season 5. I released a documentary like back in March called Story Disrupted. And so that's out on YouTube now. Looking to launch a merch line this fall because my new media company, Boujee Boss Media,
Yes.
1 year anniversary is coming up in September. So
that's the anniversary of September.
Yeah. Yes.
What are you gonna? So we're gonna release the merch.
Yeah.
Everything else that you're gonna do?
Yeah. I mean,
I'm gonna do a party like.
Oh yeah. So more events. I had a private screening back in March for the documentary, and everyone was like, "Gotta do more of that." So yeah, definitely want to do more events. But yeah, definitely it's in there.
You gotta give yourself definitely the flowers and really praise, because starting, a media brand and company and thriving in it, giving back, always creating.
Yeah.
Like that's what you're always creating. You've been doing this for a long time, hence back to college, been this creator. So it's such an amazing sight to see how everything is like unfolding in real time.
Yeah.
These are all thoughts. So now we see this in real time. I think that it's Kayla girl, that is my hair. That's all in my face. But I think that's definitely important to see you thrive and to keep going, because staying creative is really where it's at. It's an outlet. Don't you feel like it's therapeutic at times?
Yeah, no, I mean, I would go crazy if all this stayed in my head. Like, no way. So yeah, like you have to get it out, have to move, have to take action. Don't get stuck in the planning phase. Just
move. You never know who. I always tell people, you never know who is watching your content. No. That one view can be Oprah. That happened. That happened. Yeah. Okay. That was that. See, you really don't. That was a story. That guy had 2 views,
and one of them was Oprah. And he got a job.
She might watch this. You never know. Maybe my girl might watch this. So where can we find?
Yeah. Okay. So definitely my site, boujeebossmedia.com. You can also check out it's Boujee Boss Media on all the social platforms if you want to follow me, Khala Simmons, on Instagram. But yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much, Kane, for coming on the show, girl. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you.
Welcome.